Ong, your moderator for the day. And I want to welcome you all for another wonderful and purposeful session here at Pocket Mentor. And hello to all of you who are watching us right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you like our discussion for today because I think both you and I will learn a lot from our guest speaker. So let me get to it. In basketball, "and one" is a phrase used when an offensive player is fouled while making a shooting attempt, but still makes a shot and is even granted a free throw. In life, it's like having those rare moments where, despite the challenges and seemingly impossibility of things, you still end up succeeding and getting more than what you expected. What we would give to have more moments like this, right? Well, good news. We can set up our "and one" moments. It's not mere luck. It's a culmination of experience and applied knowledge. And who better to learn about it than from the current president and program director of Philippine Habagat Baseball. Our mentor for the day is also a sports commentator, analyst, and writer who has witnessed and attended various local and international sporting events. Having been part of the sports industry for most of his life, and being a multi-sport athlete himself, our speaker has successfully brought his knowledge and coaching expertise to guide not just young athletes, but also the professional and corporate Filipinos as well. His personal philosophy, "Sports Models Life," is his main tool. He believes that with the challenges that come in competitions, regardless of the outcome, the wisdom is in the journey. And this allows individuals to not just survive, but thrive in life. Everyone, let's all welcome Coach Mike Ochosa.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, so shall we start?
Yes.
Okay, no, I just wanted to jump off from what you said about surviving and thriving. Over this past couple of months, as we all know, we've been facing a pandemic worldwide. And, this pandemic is actually democratic. It doesn't choose. It doesn't choose anybody. And over the past over the past months, I've had people coming to me asking for several things. Obviously, the first thing, some friends, relatives, um, sometimes people you don't even really know. They come to you for financial help, some for physical guidance, situational guidance also, and sometimes spiritual. So I think the word that you used a while ago, thriving and surviving, I learned that rather than just helping people survive, I think at the end of the day, what you want to do is really help them thrive. And that's why I chose this topic for this afternoon. Really, it's about setting up your end one moments. So maybe let's start with defining what an end one moment is. I also chose this topic because obviously the Philippines is a basketball crazy country. And I would like to think that the metaphor would be readily understood by a lot of people who are listening to us right now. So just to review, as you said a while ago, an end one refers to that extra free throw awarded to a basketball player who's on the offensive side after he gets fouled by a defensive player as he attempts to shoot a basket. And he gets that end one moment as soon as he also makes the shot. So really an end one is a bonus for extra effort exerted, if you really want to understand it. In the workplace, an end one moment could mean going over your quota. It could represent a bonus. It could be that extra time off ratio that you've always wanted. It can also come in the form of advanced schooling or training that's fully funded by your company. Something unexpected, but you just get it. So it is an unexpected reward. It could even be that long overdue promotion. But let me encourage you. Although unexpected, the end one moment really can be prepared for. It can actually be set up. And that's, I think, the reason for this talk this afternoon. I wanted to share that. And my objective is to help people not just survive, but to really thrive in what they're doing. So moving forward, Here's how. No? I'd like to share with you. I call them 3 easy steps, but they're really all challenging. But they're these steps that I think I would like to share this afternoon. No? Number one is put the hard work in. Number two, to remember the 3 ups. And number three is to follow through. So let's take that. Let's take those one at a time. Number one, putting the hard work in. I'm sure a lot of people have heard this. No, regular practice is really actually good. It clearly makes one improve. There's some people that actually say practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And wherever you look at it, practice is about getting better. But understand that better players, the ones who get more end one moments than others, are the ones that put focus on the aspects of their game that they need work on. The NBA just finished, and I'm sure you will agree with me. The LeBron of the Lakers, Mr. James of the Lakers, Mr. Butler of the Heat are the ones that got a lot of end one moments. And I think they're one of the better players, the star players, is because they work hard on the things that they need to work on, the hard things that they need to work on. So let me put this in basketball terms. Number one, if your 3-point shot needs work, put the work in. If your free throw shooting is your weakness, then certainly put the work in. If you want to make your left side your strong side, then put the work in. In the workplace, and I'll make it simple. If you don't understand, or if you're averse to numbers and you don't like accounting much, or you don't understand finance much, get some training. I met a lot of people who outly say, I'm not a salesperson. I don't sell. Well, get out there and sell. If that's something that you need to learn, get out there and put the hard work on that. If your people management skills needs improvement, then certainly spend time with people and hone that skill. Now, after you focus on the aspects of your game that needs work, that's when you begin to outwork everybody, because now you're more focused. You know how to make yourself more well-rounded. And take note, we're talking about setting up your end one moment. But please understand, as you outwork everybody, you have to give it time. I know you guys agree with me when I say that value increases over time. Don't be in a hurry. Enjoy each moment where you put your hard work, because value, as time passes, increases, and that's true for most things. And I'm sure that's true for you also. So that's number one. Put the hard work in on the things that are hard for you. Number two, these are the 3 ups that I call them. Show up, stand up, and put up. Let's go back to basketball. Those of you who understand, 90% of this country understands what I'm going to say. But let me say it this way. When the time comes, when your team is down by 2 and the ball is in your hands, and an end one will win you the game, you got to make sure that you are ready. You see, when you show up, you have to be ready to be that person when the opportunity arises. I have met so many people that do not experience a lot of N1s in their lives, both in sports, in their careers, in school, in life in general, because they shrink when opportunity arises. I really don't understand that. You work for the opportunity, but when it comes in front of you, you suddenly just disappear. So basically, showing up is not just a physical presence, if I may remind everybody. Showing up means that you have to have an all-in attitude where spirit, soul, and body are aligned. Let me encourage you where this is coming from. You have to believe this. There are moments that are made especially for you in sports and in life. There are moments made for you, not for the guy beside you, not for the guy at your left, not for the guy that you report to, not for the people that work for you, but moments that are made especially for you. So you got to show up. You got to be there. You got to be all in. The second up, when you are faced with that opportunity, you should not shy away nor doubt that this is your time. This is a time to raise your hand and stand up. I've met some people who don't see themselves. It's kind of sad. There's some people, Rachel, that I've met that don't see themselves worthy of the prize that awaits them. That even if the goal is within their reach, the person that stops you is actually you. We can discuss about fear of failure and fear of success. Regardless of what you fear, it's still fear. So sometimes that doubt stops you, freezes you up, and prevents you from moving forward. Let me encourage you though. I don't know sometimes where that doubt comes from, but let me encourage you. You have to have two things, I think. And I've worked with a lot of young players. You have to realize I've worked with like 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds. And most of the time, what we want, what we need, and what we really work for are the same. So let me encourage you. When you are in doubt, the things that you need to work on are the following. Number one, you have to have faith. Faith is really calling out what is not as though they are. In other words, it's a belief that good things are going to come to you. It's an understanding that whatever you do, life will move on, and that reward is actually in front of you. You have to believe that something good will happen in your life. Number two, you have to move forward with a clean conscience. And I'm not talking about just something philosophical or spiritual at this point. I'm talking about having a conscience in relation to what I spoke about a while ago. Your training. You work hard, right? You tell everybody that you work hard, but did you actually work right? Did you do the 12 reps that your coach said that you should do with three sets? And then you go back to him, but you did 10, and then you tell him that you did 12. Do you actually stay and take additional shots from the 3-point area, but you only make 50, but your target is 80? I mean, have you really cheated yourself? Have you done it right? Have you done the right thing the right way all the time? Have you done the right thing even when no one is watching? The reason I say that is because the only person you will grapple with at this point of doubt is yourself. So you got to know that in your conscience that you've done the work correctly. Because that's the only time that you can really stand out with courage and raise your hand and say, you're standing up, and yes, I will take this shot. You have prepared for this, and this shot is yours. That's the second up. Third up. Balik tayo sa basketball. I described the situation a while ago. You hold the ball. You're down by 2 seconds to go. There are 5 players whose objective is to prevent you from making that basket. What does that mean in life, in work? There will be challenges. Don't expect life to be easy. If there's one truth that you have to know moving forward, this is life will be tough. And there will be potholes in front of you. Situations will change, even if you think they won't. People will fail you, even if you trust them if you really trust them. But this moment that is in front of you is not about them. It's about you. So you got to work through adversity. You got to work through all the challenges because, come on, if you're setting up your end one moment, you've worked hard, you know that situation is yours, you have no doubt that you're going to take the last shot. You got to work through adversity. It's yours. You got to take it. So those are the 3 ups. And lastly, you want to set up your end one moment, work hard, remember the 3 ups, and the last is follow through. Okay, 5 players against you. You have 4 other teammates running around the court. The ball is in your hands. the opposing players will try to prevent you from just even releasing the ball. Remember, they know that if you make that shot, you tie the ball game. So fouling you is a very clear first option for them. So be prepared for it. When the foul is committed, follow through. Follow through. You gotta understand that these guys will foul you at the earliest possible time because they don't want you to get in a shooting position. If you're the type of player that takes a jump shot or a set shot, they will foul you before you actually go up or at the top of your jump. That's where they're going to foul you. Or if they know that you're going to drive in, they will foul you before you take that Euro step. They will not allow you to even release the ball. So what do? You follow through. Now, what does that mean in reality, in what we do in the workplace? Number one, don't quit. Don't quit. The prize is already around the corner. Number two, don't stop. The goal is so reachable. You're so close. Don't give up. Target is in sight. And lastly, don't even say that it's impossible because you're so near the impossible being possible. I'll break it down for you. You've worked hard. You know your situation. You've gone through the 3 ups. This is the point in your process that your end one is presented to you. So you got to follow through and take it. So let me put everything into perspective for you after talking about the thing. If you still haven't gotten it, this is what it is. The thing is, being rewarded that extra free throw for that end one moment already tells you that you've made the shot, right? You've made the shot. So as the end one is a bonus, what does it mean? You've done your job, you've reached your objectives, you've satisfied your KPIs. This is just icing. This is performance over and beyond the call of duty. So what does it mean? The standards have been met. The standards have been met. You did not just survive. You are thriving in this situation because you've set your mind, your focus on the end one. So what exactly are you doing when you step in that free throw line you're getting ready for that attempt for that one free throw? You're actually setting standards. You're not just meeting standards, you're setting standards. So let me end with this. Knowing the right people, being the right time at the right place, and people call this luck. That will get you in the game. That will get you started off, and that's fine. Take it. Take it. It's nice to have that. But please remember this. Your end one moment opens you up to the Hall of Fame. So, if you do all the things we discussed, work hard on the hard work, number 2, 3 ups, and then follow through, I'm telling you, making that free throw, which will win you the game, is now a foregone conclusion. So, rather than just work to survive, I do suggest put your head down and work to thrive. Rachel?
Nice. Thank you for that, Coach. Actually, listening to you speak reminds me a lot about my dad. And I realized that when I think about the athletes, one thing that I know is that they put in a lot of work even before the game. Like they really prepare and their discipline starts even before they get on the court. And before we move on to the Q&A portion, I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions for Coach, please send them over at the comments below in Facebook, and we will have Coach answer them later on as we move forward. So we do have a question, and this question comes from someone that's really famous, and that person, Coach, is named Anonymous.
Okay.
And the question is, how do you manage competition? Should we even consider or think about them?
Well, in preparing for anything, you look at all the variables in business. Even as you guys are doing business consultancies, no? Obviously, in business you do that. You look at the environment, you look at the market, you look at the competitors. Yes, certainly, you consider your competitors, and then you try to match You try to match or outdo your competitors. But let me also share this. Aside from that, you have to understand that when you're competing outside, and I've learned this over the years. When I was younger, all I wanted to do was beat the other team, or be the number one brand, uh, or protect my market share. But
Mm.
in the end, you know what? Really, when you go through that and you look at competition, you're actually making yourself better. If you put that as your goal, then and time moves. Nothing is permanent. So when you move, or when situations change, you're ready for them. So it doesn't mean that if you don't meet your competitor, but as long as you put the effort to compete with them correctly and rightly, you will come out the winner.
Mm.
I do recall one brand. Wow, this long time ago in the 80s. They said we're number two, but we try harder. I'm not gonna name the brand. Yeah, and that's a good line.
Yeah.
That's a great line. They're number two, but we try harder. And I think eventually they kind of matched the brand awareness of the competing brand. They may not have been bigger, but they were competing very well, and they kept on moving forward and challenging the competitors. It's not really about winning the way you would want to define it, but
Mm.
certainly you want to benchmark yourself against the
Mm.
best competitor, not just any competitor, against the best
Yeah.
competitor.
Yeah. Actually, just listening to you, Coach, I have a question from someone who's in the consultancy business. Been hearing this a lot in the past few years about how the younger generation, we're so impatient, we want instant success. And then one of the points that you gave out earlier is how you need to put up with certain things, especially when it comes to adversity. So, and then the pandemic hits the whole world. And then one thing that we learn, like especially me personally, is you can't just aim for instant success, but also have a more sustainable aim for a more sustainable outcome. So if you were leading someone who is of the younger generation who still has this mindset, how can you start influencing or training someone like me, for example, um, to have a more better discipline when it comes to facing life and you know,
Um, that's a good question. In my experience, both as a coach in sports and also in management,
mm,
I think first and foremost, there really is no difference between with what people need and what people want. You started by describing the younger generation and the
yeah,
and that research-based understanding psychographic that you guys are more impatient than us. Um, but you also have to understand that you guys also put value in the same stuff as we did. Um, time with loved ones, working hard and being recognized, um, maybe earning enough to do things for yourself. Those are similar, those are similar targets and needs. No? So if you would ask me how I would help and or manage or to talk or to communicate with you, I would touch on those points rather than focus on what you said about a homogeneous description of a target market.
yeah,
I would look at what I can work with
mm,
rather than look at what will stop me from working with you. And I some people that I work with, I've seen them there, and you're right. I'll be very candid. No? Some people in my age group, they say the same thing about the younger guys. These guys don't even work enough, and they want more.
yeah.
But at the end,
I've heard that also.
yeah. But at the end of the day, you also have to work with us. So it's a two-way street.
Mm,
I also work with 10-year-olds, as I said a while ago, 12-year-olds. It's the same thing. I work with 18-year-olds in my program, and I work with 10-year-olds. You know what, Rachel? The program is the same.
mm,
If I may share, my program is the same for a 10-year-old and the 18-year-old because the focus is on the things that are similar to them
mm.
rather than differentiate them by their differences. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it
Yeah.
does. Actually, we have a lot of questions that are coming in, but I think a lot of them also prefer to stay anonymous. The
Okay.
next question is also from Anonymous. Do you think it's possible that a person continues to work hard and yet not receive a reward or achieve his goal? What could be missing? This is actually a very good question.
Yes, it's a good question. I will answer straightforward and unabashedly. Okay? Check where you are. Is that the place that you should be in or at? Is that the thing that you want to be doing in your life? You may be working hard in it, but you know what? Joy and content, being content is seen by people. If the reward is a promotion, your boss can see that. If you're struggling to do well, as opposed to people who are actually naturally in that position, they see that there is no effort in doing well. So my answer to that is check where you are, know what your priorities are, and if you can, no, let me rephrase that. Jump out if that's not the place for you, and put your time and effort where you are supposed to be. And rewards, I'm telling you, rewards are just going to come in naturally. I mentioned a while ago I think in the first up, you have to know that there's a situation that's specially made for you. And if you believe in that and you have faith in that, you just know that you're not supposed to be in another situation wherein you're supposed to be in the one that you're supposed to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next question is about taking risks. So the question is, there's a lot of unknown when it comes to taking risks, and I think it takes a lot of time and experience to learn when it's the best time to take the shot. Is there a way to be more conscious about taking risks wisely?
Of course. Of course. First of all, by virtue of the definition of risk, that means you have a lot of unknowns. Okay,
Yeah.
so if the question is coming from that, it's not the question is not when do I know everything to make the move or to take the shot. The risk presupposes that you do not know everything. Okay, but when do you take the shot? I like the question. You take
Yeah.
the shot when you find yourself in the situation that you have to take it. Number one, and knowing that prior to that, you knew that shot is gonna come.
Okay.
So in other words, you worked prior to that. I've also seen, not just in sports but also in the workplace, people just falling, making mistakes just because they're in a situation, but they never prepared for it. So my answer is two-pronged. Number one, recognize the situation and make sure that you have prepared yourself enough, not fully, because there will be risk. It's a risk, not fully
Yes.
to take the shot. Um, the better players, they miss. Even if they take the shot, they miss. But
Yeah.
chances are, because they want the shot and they prepared for the shot, they will make the shot. And those are the shots that we remember, di ba? Even
Yeah.
if you go to YouTube and you want to find, for example, a video of Jordan or Kobe or whatever sport, right? You will see Jordan best shots, right? You're
Yeah.
not gonna look for Jordan's misses, although there are those in in YouTube. But
Yeah.
people will remember the shots
The
that you
shot.
make, not the misses not the shots that you miss.
Yes. And I think they remember, and it gets into the Hall of Fame, those shots that were very risky, but were able to get
Yeah.
into the. So I like that. How you said preparation precedes taking the risks. So I guess the work needs to be done day to day. The next question is, when going through the middle of adversity, I realized that it's the time when you learn that there are things that need to be improved or changed. But there are moments where we need to put up with things or to have grit. Is there a way for us to know when you should continue to stubbornly stick to things or what we're doing, or when we should change?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
But I think I already answered that a while ago.
Mm-mm.
Let me
Yes.
let me let me uh let me share with you a little story about a young man that we had in the baseball program before. Um, he was very young, but he was a huge guy, but he would always strike out. He would always strike out. And everyone expected him to hit a home run. Big burly guy. He was even bigger than me at age 14. Can you imagine that? So you would expect him to hit that home run all the time. So we were teaching him the same thing over and over again, the fundamentals, But at a certain point, there was a need for him to hit that ball so that his confidence comes back. I think my answer to that question is you would know when you need to change. When everything that doesn't work, when everything that you do leads you to that wall. We've all talked about this in the past. I mean, anybody could have told you insanity is defined as that. I will not repeat that. Everyone knows that. Doing the same things over and over again, but you're expecting a different result, and it's the same thing. If you get to that point, don't be afraid to change. With that boy, what we asked him to do was very simple. We just asked him to open up his stance, which was very uncomfortable for him, because that means if you understand the game of baseball, the pitch is now, it looks like it's going towards you, because you're open, as opposed to you sideways like this. So we asked him to open up so that when he swings the bat comes in earlier. And I had to do that because I needed to bring back his confidence. You know what? Luckily, no, not luckily, but thank God on that day, he actually hit the ball and it went over the fence because of his power. And since then, we continuously work on that new stance. So my point is, you change when you need to change. And I think it's riskier if you do not change.
Yeah. Actually, another thing I think, Coach, is because that person had your advice, which means it's also important to get mentors. And it's why we have a platform like this, Pocket Mentor. We're bringing in experts like Coach Ochosa to help us and help guide us in this time. And we're really grateful for you giving us your time. And our next question is about, I think this person's talking about competition and collaboration, because in the business field right now, these two things are being mentioned over and over again. So this person said, looking at the athletes in NBA, they compete against each other individually, but also cooperate and collaborate as a team. So what's the best way to marry both?
Okay, let me understand the question. It's about individual talent and bringing it to a team.
Yes.
Is that the question, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is my take on that. Perfect. I love that question. This is my take on that. I think one of the episodes that we prepared, the title is "There is an I in Team." If you guys want to listen to that, you call Rachel. but I made that episode, and the reason I did that is because the popular phrase is that there is no I in team, right?
Yes.
But to me, the fact is there is an I, and you have to solve the I before the team begins to form. So yes, you become good at what you do. Yes, you become an individual player. Yes, you be the best player that you can be. But you will never be recognized if in a team you force what you know on others. In a team, you have to understand no one's perfect. No one is. In this world, no one is perfect. I'm not. You're not. Nothing is. Right? So in a team, you play roles. If you are not humble enough to step into a team, and recognize that someone is better than you in something, then you're not worth to be called a superstar. That's my thing. You're not worth to be called Captain Ball. You're not worth to be called the best player if you think that you are the best and your definition is best, that you're better than everybody. That's my answer to that. So there is an I in team. First, you have to know that you have to take that I out and play the role, whatever that role is.
So the next question we have is actually related to the question before, which is, do you believe that there are players that are meant to be stars, and then there are players that are meant to just support and assist them? Do teams work more effectively that way?
Yes. There are roles. Okay, let me pull back a bit. You define stars. To me, everyone is a star in a team. I know, the NBA just finished, and we're talking about basketball. But one of the moments that I clearly remember is when Michael Jordan dropped the ball to Steve Kerr, who is now the coach of the Golden State Warriors in the 90s. There was a game when the last shot was expected to be coming from Michael Jordan, as he would always do it.
Mm.
But he dropped the ball to Steve Kerr, and Steve Kerr made the shot. So in that moment, who's the superstar?
Oh.
You know, so you need to play your role, because in a team that is what's called for, and then so that's why I said there's an I, because you have to solve the I. So
Okay.
again, in
Mm-mm.
connection to that, if you cannot work with a team, leave the team. The team does not need you.
Mm.
I would rather work with, at least in the sport that I coach, I would rather work with 12 players who want to learn, who want to get better, than with one player who thinks he's good enough.
Mm.
He's the
Mm.
best. I would rather work with people who want to learn more and be better every day when they come to practice. So that's what a team is. Learn your role and play it.
Coach, while we're on this topic, um, let's say as the coach of a team, you have these different players, and then one of your players is a not just a superstar, but also has that superstar mentality. So it means he's being very difficult, cannot really um, collaborate well with the team, work together with the team, but is very good individually. So, as the leader or the coach, how can you lead the whole team together towards the same goal? And how do you deal with this individual?
Um, you know what, Rachel? It's tough to be tough. I'll start
Yeah.
with that. I'll start with that. And let me put everything into perspective. When you ask me about my coaching experience, I've coached children.
Mm,
I'm not talking about professionals who get paid to play.
mm,
That's totally different. I'm talking about 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 14-year-olds. But make no mistake, the kids that no, not kids, they're not kids, the gentlemen that I coach have actually competed abroad, and have played with
oh,
the best in the world in their age category.
mm,
So to answer your question, I will always treat everybody the same.
mm,
And if there needs to be a weeding out, then I will not make that decision.
mm,
Number one. Number two. Or they can go back to what I said a while ago. Play their role. Because if
mm,
they understand that okay, they're one of the best players, right? They come
mm.
to my team. They will only be recognized as one of the best players if the team wins. You don't recognize basketball tayo. Talk about, no, we're talking about basketball anyway.
Mm,
Let's talk about, for example, Karl Malone.
mm,
You know that guy. Again, it dates me a bit, but this is the Michael Jordan era. Karl Malone used to play for several teams, and it's one of the best players during that time. But you don't hear about him much because his teams really were not as good as the Chicago Bulls or the
mm.
Celtics or the Lakers, or even at this time, you don't hear other players that are not from the Lakers or right now at the Miami Heat. You know, like other players with big name players who came in as first drafts don't lose their luster because their teams don't win.
Mm,
So once a player comes in, or in the workplace na lang, a superstar comes in, for example, in the marketing group, and I've had
mm,
some, I've
mm,
had some, you know,
mm,
he will never provide, he will never find himself to be the superstar that he thought he was if the group does not perform. So there are two things that can happen. One, he follows the system and he settles down in his role, or he weeds himself out. That's just how it is.
okay.
So
Okay.
again, it's tough to be tough, but
Yeah.
that's how it is.
Yeah. Okay. The next question is, what common thread do you see in the best athletes? What are their common values, habits, and practices?
Okay, you read books about all these athletes across all sports. You will find similar, similar traits.
Yes.
Obviously, the will to win is
Mm,
there, the discipline, the extra effort, you know, the extra effort. um, the way that they work with their teammates if they're in a team game, you know. But at the end of the day, and I don't know if this is the right forum to talk about it, I also believe in destiny.
Mm.
You all cannot be champions, but you can always be great people,
Mm.
great players, and great people. You don't have to have the ring. You don't have to have that, what do you call this, that trophy. But in
Mm.
the end, time will tell of how great a person you are.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have similar traits, but what differentiates them is their destiny that is carved out by a higher being, not them. You'll never. Again, I use the Karl Malone example. It's one of the best players, but never
Mm.
got to the point where Michael Jordan got. People will, I'm sure, will respond. But Michael Jordan's a better player than Karl Malone. But that's not the point. The point is there's destiny in Michael Jordan, and there's destiny with Kobe Bryant, and there's destiny also with LeBron James. So
Mm-mm.
that's just how it is. Something uncontrollable, so you cannot determine huge success by yourself. There
Yeah.
has to be there has to be something in front of you that you just have to have faith that where it's gonna lead you is to make you a better person. I think that's the best target for yourself. Make
Mm.
yourself better and a better player. Not just a champion with a ring. That doesn't mean much
Mm-mm.
after 80 years or
Yes.
100 years.
Yes. So, this next question we have is very, I think, appropriate with what's happening currently. Um, so not just, I don't think it's just in for athletes, but or in games, but also in the business field. There are people who win, and then there are people who lose, and then there are moments where your company wins, and then your company loses. So the next
Yes.
question is, what is the best way to motivate a person who has failed or made a big mistake that greatly affected the group? How do you get them back on their feet?
Okay. Me as, for example, their manager. You
Mm,
want me to take the point of view.
mm,
Um, one mistake does not make a person. One mistake does not make a person. You look at a person or a person that works with you in her or his totality. You look at the character, you look at his convictions, because skills can be taught. Rachel, skills can be taught, but character, you just have to take what what personality a person gives you.
yes.
And so if you have a person that failed, you gotta know why he failed. Is
Mm,
it because of a situation? Is it lack of resources? Is it lack of time? Was he given the proper support? You have to go through that before you judge, you make that final judgment. And then you go back to the fact that, okay, over the years, have you seen this person, this guy consistently not perform? So those are the things you have to take a look at. Then you
mm,
make your decision to be fair to the person. You know
mm,
what? Sometimes you even have to look at yourself as the manager. Did you set him up to fail? You
mm,
don't know that. You don't know that. So again, I go back to what I said a while ago. It's tough to be tough, but it's tougher to be tough on yourself because you have to face some things that others are seeing but not telling you. So to answer your question, look at the person in his or her totality, and then guide if needed. Give another chance if you can. But if he's consistently failing, then there's another reason for that.
okay. Actually, I was writing down a question that I wanted to ask you, Coach, before we
Go
move
ahead.
on to the next question. Because while you were sharing about athletes and discipline, one thing that I realized with this pandemic is that there are a lot of people who found themselves as having to pivot so that they can survive in this environment and thrive. But
Yeah.
when they pivot, they start as beginners again in their
Yes.
journey because you have to relearn and unlearn a lot of things to survive in this um, environment that we find ourselves in. So, what advice can you give someone who used to be an expert in a certain field but found themselves having to relearn a lot of things and starting from the beginning?
Yes. That's an apt question, Rachel. Although we're here to talk about sports as metaphor.
Yes.
Over the past 7 months, I don't know why. I have had the chance to talk to some of my former colleagues, people that I've worked with before, companies that I consult with. Uh,
Yes.
you know, and there's one thing that was very common. You said you have to first prepare to pivot. You cannot fight the fact that that huge change is going to happen. Okay. So to answer your question, how do you begin? How what advice I've given it already. I've given it to some of my friends and colleagues. It's an attitude and a mindset. Exactly what
Mm.
you said. It's not a moving forward after the pandemic. It's a beginning within the pandemic.
Mm.
Oh my, that's a great question. It's a
Thank you.
beginning. It's a beginning within the pandemic. You
Mm.
cannot wait for whatever is going to happen in the next couple of months. Then you pivot. It's
Mm.
actually stepping back, looking at the product, going back to fundamentals, di ba? What's
Yes.
the market like? Do you have a market? In fact, is
Mm.
your brand competing well? You have to go back to that, go through that process, and then make that decision to begin again.
Mm.
And once you're able to do that, everything else is different. Di ba?
Yes.
You look at
Yes.
everything else differently because if you're looking at it as a move forward, you're going to hold on to so many things that you had in March.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
going to say, oh, pivot, pivot. How big are how huge is the pivot? Just like 10 degrees. Di ba? Di
Yeah.
ba? So it's a beginning. And I've
Yeah.
seen some, unfortunately, I've seen some who have closed down. I've seen some actually who have changed totally. And
Mm.
that's the spectrum of what is happening now. So
Yes.
if you were to ask me that question, I would answer in one word. Think as beginners. It's day
Beginners.
one. I think I sent an email to one of my friends. It's day one, bro.
Mm-mm.
That's what I
Mm-mm.
said. It's day one. You
Yes.
gotta start, you gotta know that you're a beginner again.
Yes. Okay. The next question is from Anonymous again. In your experience or opinion, what is the single greatest thing that you have learned in sports that you continuously apply daily?
Good question. Thank you. I'll tell you two things. Two things.
Okay.
Sorry, this is more than what you asked for.
No, no, it's
one, one is discipline. And I
yes.
define discipline by doing the right thing even when no one is looking.
Mm.
It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. Just be disciplined to do that. And the second is respect. These are the bedrock tenets of our group when we teach this 8-year-old, 8 to 12-year-old. It's
Mm.
discipline and respect. So discipline is doing the right thing even when no one is looking. And respect is knowing that other people have a right in this world and that they have a role to play. That extends to, baseball, we have a lot of equipment. We have the bat, we have our cleats, we have our glove. We extend that respect to things that we have. So we
Mm.
teach them to take care of their bats, of their gloves, of their cleats. Um, we frown on some players who throw their bats around or come in with dirty bats, or because we tell them, okay, who is in that batter's box with you? It's your bat. So you
Mm.
have to respect the bat. So if you're
Mm-mm.
respecting things, can you imagine what you can do as a person if you start respecting other people around you? Because
Yeah.
now you know they have a role. So if they're better than you, if they're better than you know that you have to work harder. If you're better than another person, you know your role is to teach them. So you don't slack in what you do.
Mm.
Di ba sometimes when you try to teach a person in sports, you give them a chance. Yung
Yes.
pinagbibigyan. You know what? I put it on the table. You don't help the person.
Yeah.
You don't help the person at all. Maybe a few times yes as a game, but when you're teaching that person to be good at something in sports, don't slack. Because when you
Yeah.
slack, you yourself are putting your standards down. And the person that you're teaching sees that. So to answer the question, it's both discipline and respect as I defined it.
Yes. So, the word discipline has gained a lot of negative connotations, especially when growing up. But you and my dad actually have a lot of things in common. You both talk about discipline and how necessary it is in succeeding in life and about creating your own routine. So, personally, Coach, what routine do you have or have you set that you have found has helped you in your journey in life?
Okay. You know what? In life talaga eh.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, first thing, nothing is perfect. I said that a while ago. Nothing, no one is. Neither am I. Okay. But I try to stick to some fundamentals of life. Number one, clarity and objectives
Mm,
of purpose. No?
yeah.
Listing down the roles that you play. I
Yes.
have that. I have that in my planner. It's all listed down. Okay, I won't mention the planner anymore. That's a branded planner. But I have it. I have it listed down. I understand my roles, and I prioritize I schedule my priorities
Mm,
rather than prioritize my schedule, so that when I make decisions, I try to make sure that the decisions I make has an effect on those objectives,
mm,
and
mm,
I go wayward. When I was younger, I was kalat. So
mm.
I can say this with a straight face. I had to learn it. I had to learn it. So yun. There are fundamentals in life that I think um, that I have now. Faith, um, my spiritual belief,
Mm.
that grounds me, that puts me in if I may say, in a victorious position, that I am not afraid of moving forward.
Yes.
There is no doubt, as I said, that there's blessing in front of me. I start with that. And then the second level is family,
Mm,
uh, which is the second most important thing in my life. Uh, my children,
mm,
and my wife,
mm.
and then the personal stuff. Things to me are of much less importance now than they were when I was younger.
Yes.
What is more important is time spent wisely, work that is meaningful,
Mm,
and then you work towards that. So the discipline there is writing it down and working on them daily,
mm,
daily.
mm.
Because the only thing that will guide you are those things that you set for yourself. If you do
Mm.
not set anything for yourself, that guides you too. Di ba?
Yeah.
That
That's
guides you
right.
too. So you'll
That's
never
right.
know what you're going to do. But
Yeah.
Rachel, thanks for that question. And if there's people listening, I'm not perfect. I had to learn that. I had to
Mm.
make so much mistakes in life to be able to know that I know that I know that I have a direction and I am important, and that I share that with my family.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, the discipline that I have is based on years of experience and listening to counsel.
Yeah.
So that's what I have now.
So there's actually a common thread that I've realized from our conversation, which is you don't just focus on the main things, but also you need to have the humility and the faith so that you're strong as you journey on.
Yes.
And looking at the time, I think we only have room for maybe two more questions. So the next question is, what approaches or mental tools or processes are usually used to help a person work under pressure?
Okay. Work under pressure. Number one.
Yes.
First of all, let me say this. When you already find yourself under pressure, whatever you went through before that will define how you will respond to it or react to it. So my question will be how to my answer will be how to prepare yourself before you face pressure.
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
So again, number one, you have to know that you have a purpose. You have to know you have your role in life. You have to understand your skill set. You have to understand your skill set. Because once you know those three things and you have an understanding and footing of where you are, pressure will just be adversity that you will learn from.
mm.
And you don't react, you respond. Because I will leave you with this. Once you find pressure and you're ready for it, the first thing you do is pause,
Mm-hmm.
rest,
Mm.
step back, breathe, and then know that you will get through this. You will
Mm.
get through it because in life, we go through everything.
Mm.
I don't think any any religion, any philosophical teaching tells you that you will be stuck in one place for the rest of your life.
That's right.
You will always go through. So let me leave you with, so I said this a while ago, but let me encourage you. You will go through what you need to go through. What you will
Mm.
see at the end is what you bring in as a person. So,
Mm.
work under pressure, prepare now. That's a good question because you know you will be under pressure sometime. So
Yeah.
prepare now. Prepare now.
So a lot of the battle happens during preparation.
Yes.
I'm guessing. So okay, now we are down to our last question. And before we move on to the last question, I just would really want to thank Coach Mike. Thank you for giving us your time and your
Thank you,
wisdom.
Rachel.
Um, the last question we have is: do you believe that failure is necessary or an essential part of a person's journey to success? Is it possible to succeed without ever failing?
That's two questions.
Yeah.
First of all, you will fail.
Mm.
First of all, you will fail. What you just mentioned is something impossible. That is not truth. Not what is truth is that you will fail more than you will succeed.
Mm.
So, if the question is, do you have to fail? No, but you have to learn. You have to learn from the failures and you have to learn from the successes, and you
Mm.
have to bring them together and move forward. So never think that nothing is going to go wrong. In fact, sometimes when you even think that something is so perfect and by tomorrow it's going to be the same, it
Mm.
won't. Again, excited naman ako. I have another episode that I talked about that we already that I developed. I
Mm-hmm.
talked about facing adversity
Mm.
and falling forward.
Mm.
I know, sorry, that falling is a move forward. And then I said, you will fail. You will make mistakes.
Yes.
But it's innate in us to stand up and move forward.
Mm.
We as human, just recently someone said we are human beings. You
Yeah.
know, we are beings. We are not robots. We are
Human.
beings. So we are who we are. So we innately stand up. So
Yes.
to encourage the person who asked the question, when you fail, don't fret. You're gonna stand up. You're gonna stand up, but
Yeah.
learn from it. And even if you succeed, learn from it. That's what you need to go. That's what you need to have moving forward.
Yes. So I think that wraps up our session in a very, very good note. So, in summary, failure and success, they belong to the same equation.
Yes.
And looking at the time, why? How fast time flies. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. So we hope that you were able to pick up nuggets of wisdom during our session, but also had fun, just like I did with our conversation with Coach Mike. So, before we end the session, just a reminder we will have a special Facebook Live edition in about 2 weeks. And details will be posted soon in our Facebook page. So, don't forget to follow to get notifications for our announcements. So, please watch out for that. And again, thank you to everyone who listened and to everyone who watched. We hope you had a great time. See you soon and stay safe.